respected Professor Dr. Mohan Balakrishna Menon, our guest of honor for today to address the August gathering. Professor Menon is the honorary chairperson of Disha Global Trust, Kochi, India. He has held several important positions globally, including Chief and Director of UNESCO, UNRWA, Deputy Vice Chancellor of Wawasan Open University, Penang, Malaysia, Education Specialist and Team Leader at the Commonwealth of Learning, Vancouver, Canada, and many, many more. Professor Menon is having more than 45 years of prolific experience in the field of academics and administration. We are extremely delighted to have you here with us, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good day to all delegates to the International Education Forum 2020. All invited ladies and gentlemen. I would like to first of all thank the organizers of this forum for inviting me as guest of honor and also to make a presentation within the broad theme of holistic education. I would like to focus my presentation on holistic education, of course, but its relationship to 21st century skills and the digital learning environment, which is becoming more and more applied in our educational system and in other sectors also. There are three concepts that I would like to touch in my presentation. They are related. The two of them are related to holistic education. All the three are in a way supports each other. Holistic education always is seen as a process. It's a way of organizing education in a manner that it becomes more holistic and learner-centered and group-centered, with a lot of learner engagement in the education. While the 21st century skills focuses more on outcomes. In fact, what are those skills, competencies that will be required to be effective in the 21st century and in the coming years also, in the next couple of decades or even more. So that's talking about what the learners, the competency skills the learners should achieve or should attain through the holistic education that we are talking about, so that they can do well not only in their higher education but also in their job context. These two today have to be seen in the light of a third concept which is becoming globally very, very important and is extending to all aspects of our life, including education. That is the technology part of it, the digital learning aspect. And digital learning is a facilitator. How it can really provide for so many limitations that the system might have, and how it would support the teachers in making the teaching learning process more effective. Today actually we are having an opportunity for a positive change in making our educational system more holistic in order to achieve what we may call as those competencies required in the 21st century. You would have seen that due to pandemic, now I think even today most schools or all schools are closed in the sense that the children don't go to the school, but they are being educated through the use of technology. It could be video programs being seen by the students or online education in many schools, and children are getting accustomed to that, probably a little uncomfortable also because of that, because it's for the first time probably they are going through such a educational provision which they might have known earlier, because both the smartphones and computer and all these, they know that there can be educational inputs in that, but they have really not gone through such an educational program for themselves. And we have seen that technology is becoming effective for this, and it is also not too expensive. If when you look at the unit cost, the large number of children who can be educated through that, but of course it needs the hardware, it needs the connectivity and such support, which are of course would require financial support. And it is seen not only now but even earlier, the use of technology in reaching out to children can make their education more flexible, because they can access it at any point of time, and there are individualized education possible, although we may not be attempting to that now, but the technology can really provide for individualized education, and even inclusiveness. The children who are of different caliber and or they are outside the socio-economic capabilities, they can be brought into that with probably a financial support or scholarships or provided by the government or the educational provider. And it is getting more and more acceptance. That's no doubt. I mean, even policies are changing. We have seen that the new National Education Policy 2020 is focusing a lot on technology and online education or digital education. So we are seeing that it is catching up with the stakeholders, whether they are policymakers or the administrators and also the teachers. Of course, the learners are also accepting, and I believe that it will be easier for the learners to accept, because they are digital natives, as we call them, that they were all born into the digital world. They all know the smartphones. Economically upper class children would be it will be available at home right from the beginning in their childhood, that they use it for various purposes. But even economically backward, it is possible to provide them the support of technology, smartphones, so that they can learn through that. So, and they are happy, they are comfortable with that. Probably they are more comfortable than others, the teachers and the administrators and the community. So that's the advantage that we find in the use of technology. So that's something which is going to stay even after the pandemic period is over. I really don't think that our educational system will go back to the old ways. It might not be the same as it is done during pandemic, but the online, offline education, the digital learning will be very much part of teaching learning process. And of course, teachers will have to be prepared for that, which is another issue to be dealt with. Holistic education, coming to the main focus of this forum, I'll have to say a few things on holistic education, although my intention is not to go deeper into the concept and the operational aspects of holistic education, because that would come, I'm sure, in many other presentations also. But surely I will tell a few things about holistic education. Holistic education, as I find in the literature, education is a comprehensive approach to teaching, providing whole child support to students. Holistic educators seek to address the emotional, social, ethical and academic needs of students in a more integrated way. So it is an integrated learning format that is visualized in a holistic education scenario. and emphasis is placed on positive school environments. This is what the literature talks about holistic education, and one might ask this question that okay, that is holistic education, but why do we have to go for holistic education? In fact, many of the theories of learning would talk about the engagement, the learner engagement in the classroom processes. That's very important. It's not that learner is just taking information to their empty heads, as one might call, but that's a very old way of looking at learning itself. But learners learn through engagement, through reflection, through participation in activities in a manner that they acquire various aspects of learning, dimensions of learning through those engagements. So holistic education instills, when children are involved in that manner, it instills in projects, activities, etc. It instills curiosity and develop better communication and social skills as they will be engaging with other students also and the teachers also. Holistic approach encourage children to make connection in a subject using their creative skills. So it is within the subject and across subjects. Interdisciplinarity also can be brought in when it comes to projects and activities. So, and holistic approach really involves that. And so they develop psychological, social and emotional growth. So it is not just the academic memorizing or information growth in terms of memorizing information or becoming more knowledgeable, but also for other emotional, social and psychological growth also. It really helps. And it is more natural than and engaging than a teacher coming and just giving a teaching on a particular concept. The participation of every child is expected, and it will happen, and that happens in a very joyful and meaningful manner, so that they would have a very positive experience in going through holistic education processes. So that is what holistic education talks about. And if you look at, although we theoretically tell all these things, but if you look at what is happening in the classroom today, even today, with all the developments and all the innovations that might be taken up by some teachers, I'm not talking about that all teachers would be doing in a traditional manner, but generally most teachers in a formal education system or in a formal school would look at education as a process which focuses on the curriculum and syllabus. The knowledge and information focused by the syllabus. What is the syllabus? What does the textbook says? So that would be the focus, and every teacher will be controlled rather or monitored by that syllabus. So that information which is put in that content, that is to be imparted to the learners. That is mostly done. And student engagement is not encouraged much. In fact, many, in the name of discipline, even some teachers may say that there is not much of talk in the class, and then people would listen to the teacher. So you concentrate on the teacher. You know that as a concentration on single aspect has been one focus that the traditional learning would say. And direct experience, very, very less. Everything is through indirect experiences. Even if you show some videos or pictures or models, and it's not really very direct experience. They are not really participating in the environment to the extent needed, so that they can themselves construct the learning, construct the knowledge by themselves. So that is more engaged learning we are talking about. It doesn't happen in most classrooms. And examination is very much knowledge oriented. The questions that is asked, and and the focus is, although we talk about applications and applied questions, but very rarely that we find that that's given the focus. It is knowledge. They have to reproduce, they have to recall concepts, then statements of definitions, and etc. So application of knowledge and problem solving, not emphasized, I wouldn't say at all, but not emphasized much. So how can a student completing school or college education become suitable for the productive life and employment in the present continuously changing world? We talk about continuous changing, we saw that what sudden change that happened during the pandemic time and how it affected the different professions, jobs, careers. And this could happen anytime. May not be in such a shocking manner as it happened during the COVID time. But in a student's education life as well as occupation, they will find that there are changes that will have to be suddenly brought in. Are they prepared for that? Probably they are not. If they are not really taught in a manner where they engage very much with others, other children, with the environment, with direct experiences, interactivity, etc. So this is an issue which we will have to keep in mind. So that's about the process part. Holistic education emphasizes that. The second part is we talked about 21st century skills. Now, what was the skill traditionally that we expected every learner to have? What we, in a simplistic manner, we said the 3 R's. 3 R's are the reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is what they required, and emphasis in the medieval period, and although in the traditional schools was only in these 3. Of course, we have changed from that position quite a bit, but we have not changed to the extent that we are equipping our children to deal with the complexities of today's life. That's why when they go out, even if they have done very well in terms of their grades and marks, they find it difficult to adapt to the requirements of the context in which they will be living or they will be working. So we have to look at what and how of 21st century skills. What are 21st century skills? And how we can really achieve that. How today's children and youth can remain competitive in a changing education and job market when they come out of the school. We are not telling that they are working at this point of time in the schools, but when they come out of the school, how well they would be prepared to deal with the changing educational system as well as the job market itself. So that's what we have to express. We have to examine. When you talk about 21st century skills, there are 3 L's we talk about. There are 3 categories of skills that we focus on. One is the learning skills, second is the literacy skills, and the third is life skills. It's no more 3 R's. It's much more complex than that. These are also 3, but each of these will contain sub-skills. What are the different learning skills? Learning skills, like for example, critical thinking, whether they are able to examine a phenomenon and very critically analyze and critically examine that and come out with their own interpretations. Are they prepared? Will that sort of a skill, is it developed through today's education? Second is creativity. To what extent they foster, the system fosters creativity so that they become more creative, and that creativity helps them to think of out of the box solutions for problems that they may face later. Third is collaboration. Incidentally, today's education system is more individualistic than collaborative. There is competition than cooperation. But what we have to really develop is the competency, the skill of collaboration. How are we going to develop that? Communication. In fact, for many, even those who do very well in the school system, when it comes to communication, they are quite ill-equipped, I would say. Mainly oral communication. If somebody is asked to talk and articulate their thoughts and present, they probably find it difficult. They may be able to write, that too sometimes difficult for them, but the writing is more formal and they do that. But as they have not experienced talking too much in the class, in an academic environment with other children and the teacher, in a more serious and academic manner, they find it difficult to communicate, standing up and talk in the class, presenting a seminar, or presenting any other a talk, etc. So that's another. Communication is another. There are 4 skills that we are talking about under learning skills: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Second is the literacy skills. Literacy is not just about reading and writing and arithmetic. Information literacy is very important today, about technology, about computers, how we can use that. Media literacy, I mean, for example, the media, how we make use of the media, video and all these, and then that literacy is very important. And technology literacy itself, how to deal with some of the technical things, even hardware as well as software. Simple technical things are important for every child. And then the life skills, the flexibility, to what extent we have developed through our education to be flexible, not rigid. Leadership quality, that's another skill that we focus on. Yeah, I mean, it's important to develop leadership quality, and it also, along with that, important to be how to become a member of a team. So you cannot be leader all the time, but you can also a follower in a very positive manner. But that also is important along with leadership skills. Initiative. You cannot be like you are told to do certain things. The children are told to do certain things, then they will do. They themselves will not be having the initiative and motivation to come out and do things. And productivity in terms of not only producing objects and all, but coming out with results is very important. And the social skills, absolutely important. Not only social skills in a real social context, but also in the skills that is required to be participating in social media like Facebook and WhatsApp and all these is also important. And as we know that children are very much into these social media platforms. So how do we take care of that? So let me look at a few of these important things. One is that comes out of all these learning skills and literacy skills and the life skills. One is the basic technology. Computer literate, hardware and software. I'm just listing that. Basic proficiency with instant messaging, Googling. So there are common tools which have to be used. And then the other basic computer applications. They are very important. Computer literacy includes this, the literacy about the computer technology and how really to deal with the hardware and use simple software. May not be very complicated software. Communication, as I said, the ability to communicate effectively, which means talking, listening and writing. All the 3. Communicate with your body language is important. I mean, how you are using your body language, your expressions and your, that also communicates, and that has to be integrated with what you talk. Good communication skills enables learner to express their thoughts clearly. That's more important. The thoughts have to be expressed using these different aspects of communication. And this communication is not only in a one-to-one group, in an informal situation, formal situation, but also in a group situation. So that's very important. Problem solving. In fact, life is all about problem solving, whether it is in our informal life itself, or even in the work situation, or in a higher education situations, dealing with the problems that one may face, small or big, and solving that in a very scientific manner. And there are several job related problems will come. It's not very mechanical that you go on doing things. Every job will have its own small problems cropping up, and one has to develop that ability to, or the skill to, for problem solving. And this will have to be done in a very calm and quick manner, and sometimes unexpected issues might come up. That's also possible. There could be failures, and how one is dealing with that failure in a very that the emotional status, or the strength of the person becomes very important at that stage. If something goes wrong, it doesn't mean that you are completely break down, and then you are not probably able to function in a effective manner for some time. So that's very important. So all these are important to solve problems in an effective manner. Adaptability is very important. You have studied in a particular school with a particular group of children and students and teachers, and then you have to move into a different context, maybe within the same environment, or within or outside the state, or even sometimes outside the country. How are you going to adapt to that situation? There may be several cultural changes and habit changes. Different habits will be there, and others you are dealing with might have been brought up in a different cultural environment. How you are going to adapt to that situation? The adaptability is a very important aspect which one has to develop to be effective in life. Another aspect which I want to emphasize here is about multitasking. What is multitasking? You see, you would say that traditionally we would say when you are working on something, concentrate on that work. Don't put on the radio or the music when you are studying. Yes, many children still don't do that, and let's say to concentrate on something and study is very important. I am not de-emphasizing that. But today's life, if you look at, you cannot really, the complexity is such, you may have to do several things at least 2 or 3 things together we may have to think of and execute at a point of time. Today's children are much more equipped for that, because you have seen children concentrating on what you are talking as well as looking into the smartphone. Earlier it was not so. I mean, when we were children, I think we were focusing more on one task. But today's complex situation requires multitasking. Balancing multiple tasks is vital in today's life. So that has to be looked at. Should be able to handle everything that today's typical job throws. I mean, it's not single task that the job may really want you to do, what the child to do when it goes into an occupation. And we'll have to manage different duties assigned to them. So multitasking is another one which will have to be also. So this is also part of the 21st century skills. And of course, social media. To be very effective in social media is important today, because people are all into social media, children are into social media, but how to conduct themselves, how to behave well, how to interact well in an effective, in a very collegial manner in the social media is an attribute, a skill that has to be developed. So all these are broadly that what we may call as the outcomes that we would like our children to achieve within the 21st century skills as we talk about. So these are the 3 aspects, the holistic education and the 21st century skills, and this will today be facilitated in a digital environment. When we talk about digital environment, what is digital learning? Digital learning is learning that will happen through the different technology mediated inputs that come in, like all the WhatsApp messages, online messages, offline, everything that comes from the googling, the message that will come through that. So that's very important. And as far as a teacher is concerned, it's important to make use of that digital environment very effectively, so that the complexities of holistic education as well as the digital learning skills are properly achieved or properly taken care of. And the technology helps you in that. It is not that technology complicates you or makes it more complex, rather it facilitates the process. That is the way we have to look at. I'm not trying to say that all should be through technology alone and nothing else. No, classroom teaching, face-to-face teaching and all one would continue to do. During the pandemic time one may not be doing, but later surely we will be, children will go back to school and the teachers will go back to the classroom. But the issue will be that how the teacher is going to blend the digital learning environment with the real environment in the classroom or in the school or in the community. So if you look at the environment that is more very conducive for the child to learn in the post-pandemic time, is that there is a classroom interaction that will go on, as we all know. There has to be an institutional infrastructure with proper resource support, so the technology can be accessed there from outside. The digital inputs can be accessed in the form of that require hardware, as well as the software, and also the platforms like learner management system and other social media platforms integrated to that. That would be required. That is, the institution will have to provide that. And of course 24/7 sort of connectivity is very important in the classroom and in the school. And of course there are inputs that will come from outside in the society, not only what is provided by the institution for the learner, not by the teacher for the learner through the technology, but also from outside the school, outside the community, inputs that will come globally from anywhere. There will be very positive resources that will be learning resources that can be accessed by learner. All the three will be available. You cannot leave the children with that, but the teacher will have to properly design a holistic learning approach and techniques to achieve that, to make use of that, to mobilize all these technologies and making the classroom more effective. Now, I will talk a little about pedagogic aspects and then conclude my talk here. We have to think of pedagogic transformation. It is not just small changes in the pedagogy. It is not small changes in teaching that will help us. Pedagogy of the 21st century differs fundamentally from the pedagogy of the 20th century. So 21st century is different because of all the complexities we talked about. And there may be 4 essential things that has to be emphasized in that pedagogy. One is that it should be student-centered in the real sense, not just telling student-centered, but it is student-centered in engaged, student-centered, student-controlled, student-engaged. It should be collaborative, as we talked about earlier. And learning should have a context. Any aspect that we teach cannot be taught in a vacuum. Any theory or anything that we want to, it has to be brought in within a context of a project or a situation where learner can actually see how that theory operates. Everything cannot be created in the classroom, but we can use the media, the digital resources in a very big way to and engage the children with them in a very positive way. And the last, which and very important, that integrating with the society. When you say integrating with the society, it is of course the immediate community around the school. There has to be children linked with that, participating in those activities to the community, as well as the larger community which comes virtually, the come through the digital resources. Also, that interaction, social media is very important for that purpose, that a learner today can interact with anybody in the world. And it is not that we allow them to interact in whatever way they want, but the teacher will have to organize that. And there are If we see from that point of view, there are certain pedagogic approaches that we will have to focus. I will just list a few and conclude this talk. Encouraging reflection, teaching and developing thinking skills, encouraging collaboration, enabling technologies, assessing students in a manner that it is a very comprehensive assessment, developing problem solving, so the context has to be provided, the projects have to be created, not just theoretical talk in the classroom. So project-based learning becomes very important, and they will get involved in developing things, developing ideas, being creative, and developing even designing things, etc. will be very important. So these are the pedagogical issues also that we may have to keep in mind. I wouldn't like to go further, so I just want to summarize my presentation. I will conclude my talk in telling that we are trying to look at holistic education in the context of achieving 21st century school skills with the help of digital learning, and also with the help of a new pedagogy, new ways of teaching itself, which involves not just academic learning, but also very engaged, very reflective, community networked learning, and that's what really we want, we have to achieve. I would again thank the organizers, and if there are any questions or anything that can be asked at the time of interaction. Thank you very much.